30. Huh. I'm gonna do a screen share. It should pop up on your side.
Not yet.
Yes.
There it
Okay.
is.
There you go. You should see everyone now. So
Mhm.
basically, I've shared this screen deck or this slide deck with you that's for week 4. So we are starting our halfway point. It's 8 week course. We're at week 4. So we'll start, and I apologize for any confusion. I had some dates that were overlapping, and so there was some confusion. I've corrected that, uploaded the corrected version of the syllabus in there. So some of you guys that maybe went ahead and did that, you're actually a week ahead. I think Micah mentioned that. So he's got a little breathing room here. So anyway, everything should be correct in there. So if I inadvertently went through and put 0 on the assignment on there, I think I've got all those removed. I've had a couple email me. I was like, hey, due to the confusion, it's the 15th. Okay, so don't worry. And if I failed to get your 0 off there, let me know. Don't want to create any additional stress for you guys. So just kind of want to clarify that. So here we are. We're talking about child find this week. So the assignment will focus on, some of you guys have already submitted it, so you're in good shape. But if you have not, it's looking at it, and it's a discussion board on child find. And so looking at it, um, it's going to be asking you basically a process of your child find in your district. Districts have different ways that they go about identifying students for special services. They also have different ways on the front side that they collect data. I mentioned to you, I think, last week or the week before, Oklahoma is still one of the states that is referred to as a discrepancy model versus a lot of states now are shifting over to what we call MTSS or RTI model, to where you have to go through and provide MTSS supports. RTI have a lot more documentation. Then the testing side is more or less on the back side to get data to support what you've collected through MTSS or RTI. So it's going to be a big shift for us here. We've got a window of about 7 years to get it done, and then it will be official that we will change over in here in Oklahoma. A lot of your states may already be there. Okay, so we're going to look at tonight slide decks a little bit about the screening process, a little bit about general education intervention or GEI, multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS, often interrelated with RTI. Then student intervention teams, and then we'll talk a little bit about the assignment coming up. So what y'all find? Different districts have different ways of doing this. Um, so schools must have policies and procedures in place to ensure that all children within the district with exceptionalities who are in need of special education related services are identified, located, and evaluated. Okay, that does include some of those kiddos that maybe haven't entered school yet, and your district works with what we call sooner care. Your state may have another term that they use. Here it's sooner care, and the school partners with them to provide those services. Who's included? Children who attend public or private schools, homeschool children, highly mobile, including migrant and homeless, and also wards of the state, kids under DHS foster care. Some may be placed in homes, living in homeless shelters, maybe in special schools to where that school that houses those kids partners with their local school districts, provides transportation. They're educated there, then they go back to that facility and live in the evening. What ages are covered? Applies to children ages birth through 21. Okay. Child Fund in the state of Kansas. I realize some of you guys aren't in Kansas, but it just refers to Kansas since Fort Hays is based out of there. Child Fund in Kansas involves a screening process for children birth through the ages of 5. That could be partnering with agencies that provide it. In Oklahoma, Sooner Cares, the agency or the term that we use. Secondly, general education intervention, GEI process for children from kindergarten through ages of 21. So the first step, Provide information to the public concerning availability for those special services, including procedures for accessing those services. Most schools have it on their website, but not everybody in the district knows to look right at the school website or where to find it. So we also have to provide some other things. So provide public notice annually, usually at the beginning of the school year. We also have to keep copies of that information from Child Find. We have to keep them on file and document those along with our policies and procedures. So it's part of the accreditation process. When our accreditation officers come in, that's some of the items that we have to show. We have to show proof that we've published and publicize that. We have to show screenshots on our website. So multiple things we have to do. Screening for children birth through age 5. Okay, all those are developmental screenings. Okay, very difficult to go in and do formalized assessment on because they don't have the exposure to the skill set. So we have to look at developmental screenings on birth through age 5. Most of these include observations. So we have different instruments where we provide measurements of developmental tasks. And there's also different techniques that we address for potential developmental delays or disabilities in the areas of common areas that we look at, especially in the early ages. Communication. It's where you see a lot of speech IEPs, right? Communication disorders. A lot of that's developmental. A lot of times by upper elementary, they kind of developed out of that. They receive speech therapy, they're exited, they move on, and you never know they receive speech services. Cognitive development, they may have some cognitive delays or some social emotional development, self-help, behaviors, and also physical development. So that's where our OT, PT, a lot of times we're seeing those specialists come in due to some developmental issues that they're having. And so those specialists come in, provide those services. Also, services that we provide hearing and vision screenings. We're required to do that. I'm sure you are in your state. We have to show it's required at entering kindergarten and then also again in 3rd grade. So we have to do that a couple times and we have to document, show it as part of our accreditation purposes. Once a parent asks for screening, it should happen within 30 days. Okay, so that timeline starts when we're looking at screening for developmental birth through 5. If the results of screening indicate some potential developmental delays, disabilities, the team will make a referral for initial evaluation. I think we talked a little bit about maybe last week or the week before. When we do these evaluations, a lot of times when they're under 10, a lot of districts use the category DD or developmentally delayed. We often do that. And then when they hit or turn in 10, we've got to do a reeval and we've got to change that category. Okay, so don't know if your district does that. A lot of districts do. So something you might want to check on just to see if your district is designated as developmentally delayed. Okay, and you have the option of doing that. So it's a district choice. General educational intervention for children kindergarten through 21. Okay, so ages 5 to 21. Okay, so we're in a different age range now. We're talking more school aged. We need to identify possible emotional language and perceptual differences. Do you guys remember? I think it was with 801. I talked about the different categories that we identify students in, and we talked about emotional disturbance and how broad that is. You guys remember me going over that with you last week or the week before? I challenge you to look at that, the criteria for especially ED. It's very broad. There are 5 criteria, and I think I mentioned, I always do when I bring this up. If you look at those 5 criteria for emotional disturbance, I can just about guarantee you any one of us, including me on this Zoom tonight, have experienced one of those within the last week easily. So if you haven't really looked at those, I would challenge you to do that the next day or two, really go look. It's very broad. But emotional challenges is one of the categories that we look at. Okay, so We have to also do it for school-age children, private elementary or secondary schools in the district. We have to include them in child find. Also, in our reporting for federal, we have to identify if we provided or advertised that to determine if there's any children attending private schools in our district. We have to show verification so that they are included in that. We must have documentation on interventions and strategies. Okay, would be inadequate to address areas that concern the child. We have to show we provided interventions and strategies. We can't just suspect, give them some little screener, and if they score low, say we need to recommend them for testing. You need to have multiple sources of data for this before we make that recommendation. Children being provided with appropriate instruction in a regular education setting and that it was delivered by qualified individuals. With the teacher shortage, I don't know if you guys have to provide or notices that the teacher's highly qualified and provide notice that if the teacher's not. That's something we have to do here, especially when we're working with our federal funds. We have to do that.
So with that, like at my school, we have I think three teachers that are like student teaching, but actually in the classroom with. So is that something we would have to notify to the parents that those teachers are actually student teachers?
That they're seeking certification, they're doing their student teaching. Yeah.
We would have to notify the parents?
We got one right now that we're doing that with. She's doing her student teaching. We're looking to hire her. We have a shortage and we have a need. So we
Well,
just
we have three. We have
Yeah.
three in just my school building, in my building.
So it's the first time I've had to do it with a student teacher. They've given us a lot more flexibility here, mainly due to the teacher shortage. So
Right.
you're seeing a lot more flexibility states are giving now with the shortage that's out there, and it's not just an Oklahoma problem; it's a all across the nation problem. I don't know
Okay.
if I told you guys this or not, but 2 years ago, here our legislature went in and passed legislation to where before they changed this, we could hire someone as an adjunct teacher for one class period a day if they had a skill set knowledge in that subject area. Now they changed it to where we can adjunct them all day long. So I mean, before we never could have done that. So Mick, I think you had a question.
I did, and I apologize to the rest of the group because this might be a personal thing, but this is my first year in special education. I've been a core math teacher for 13 years, and of course I have to have the endorsement to be able to teach modified math or whatnot, and I chose to go after my master's, not just doing an endorsement, but it almost feels like the expectation is that I kind of almost have to know exactly what I'm doing right off the bat. And I'm like, I really, as I, as I'm hats off to all special education teachers, because, when you're a core gen ed teacher, you don't really see what goes on behind the scenes and all the things that have to be met legally as well as with the time. And I have my first IEP meeting and I really don't have any idea what I'm doing in it. And so if anybody has any kind of words of affirmation for me, any kind of advice, I would love to hear it.
No, I appreciate you sharing that because you brought up a couple very valid points, and I'm going to speak now from the administrative side, from a school superintendent side, also building principal and in the past, and even me having conversations currently with building principals and some of our staff, and so you're in a situation also here we may do micro credentialing, what they call micro credentialing, which is just an alternate pathway, basically, Mick, similar to what you're doing. Or they may go through boot camp, what we call boot camp, to get credentialing to where we can place them in there. Where we fall short, I think, and I'm speaking from the administrator side, okay? You guys, whether it's you or people here that I'm putting in those rooms and the building principals, we automatically assume that they're coming in and they know. And we've got to change that mindset because in actuality, they don't. We got to remember that they're having to go down some alternate pathways to get there. And it's sometimes a quick fix. I don't mean that in a negative way, but states are doing that because of the shortage. And it's like I've told our principals, and they see it now. I mean, we just assume they're coming in and they know, and in actuality, they may not know what EP means. I mean, really, some of them may not. I mean, they're just kind of thrown into it. So showing them some grace and providing them resources and helping them along. I mean, that's something from the administrative side. I just feel like we got to do a better job of. And those individuals are coming in, and in reality, they may not show it externally, but on the inside, they probably have a deer in the headlight look, and they're nervous as get out. And
This guy right here.
and and what I always tell them
Me
is,
too.
look, hey, if you don't know, the worst thing you can do, and I'm just saying this in general, and I'm saying it to you, and I tell our people, the worst thing you can do is not ask. A lot of them won't do it because of pride. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask, find those individuals. When we get on these Zoom calls and we're on here a little early, man, ask questions. And I promise you, you're not in it alone.
Well, and I'm going to tell you honestly, I do have some really great support on campus. My next door neighbor, classroom right next door to me, she is tremendous. She's completely open to me coming and knocking on her door and asking questions. But it kind of feels like the administrator that's over the special ed department is kind of shoving me into it more than what anybody else is. And she's like, you got to learn this quick. You better pick it up. And other people are like, we get you. We understand. Like, we understand that you're new at this.
And there's a lot to it. There is a lot to keep up with. And it's not a overnight learn. You're not going to do it in a month. You're not going to do it in 2 months. It takes time. And even if you went through, I'm saying, a traditional teacher prep program that was specifically designed for special education, it would still, you would have a learning curve, and you would be coming out of that program with a lot more knowledge because you took all these classes geared toward it. You're still going to have a learning curve because there is a lot of federal guidelines, and then you hit on something else. And I wish regular, and I'm kind of going down a rabbit trail here, but I'm just going to say it because you brought up the question. So
I apologize.
So I hope you guys are patient, but I've always said this. I strongly believe that regular teachers in the regular education setting need to go and trade places for one day with a special ed teacher. They will come out there. I refer to the deer in the headlight mode. That will give them a whole different perspective, because I think there's a lot of them out there, not all of them, but there are some. You're going to run into them, and you already have them right in your building, that regular ed classroom. They're rigid. They don't understand. They don't want to understand. And it's either going to be their way or the highway. And until they're in that setting and they see, and they have a total shift, in a paradigm shift, basically is what I call it. I think they all need to do it, because it just gives you a whole different perspective on it. And it's not easy. You're not in there as a babysitter. You have a wide range. You have to plan for multiple lessons and multiple levels. You're juggling a lot of things. So I think they all need to see it one day, just one day. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to talk about those two things. So don't be afraid to ask. Even on here, don't be afraid to ask some of your peers. I always say the worst thing you can do is not ask. Okay. So
Mick, what district are you in? Mick, what district are you in?
I'm in USD 305.
Okay, so I am too.
Okay,
And
yeah.
so I was thrown into special ed last October, and never done it before. And you've got to use your reference through the co-op. Cause like,
Okay.
what school are you at?
I'm at Salina South Middle School.
Okay, I don't know who's in charge, but like mine through the co-op is Amanda Scheppelman. And you need to go through the co-op and find out who because they have a representative that represents all those schools. And that's what they're there for, to come and help you write those IEPs.
And I can't recall the name, but she's the one with the dark hair, taller woman with the darker hair.
Is it Jen Spotty?
I don't think it's Savati.
Okay. Utilize them. I mean, Amanda, I just started last October and I still have Amanda coming out and helping me, and I'm still calling her on the phone. And
it's so long. I never really knew the ins and outs of what special education really entailed and what special education teachers actually went through. And now that I'm actually getting it firsthand and it's actually being force fed, it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. Like,
wording absolutely kills me on IEPs, but you take advantage of the people at the co-op because that's their job.
okay. Hey, thank you so much.
Sorry.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'll be in touch with you.
Okay, do.
Absolutely.
So much start my screen real quick. I lost the PowerPoint, so bear with me a second.
Whoops.
So what do you do if the general education teacher isn't following accommodations set out for your students?
I went to my admin.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, because this is
Could
only
I
my
advise
first year in
against it?
education, first year in
Admin right
SPED.
away?
So
Yeah, that's what I had to do that last year. And it was like, it was very clear and she was not doing it. And I'm like, I just went to admin because I'm like, is that a conversation I need to have or that you
Right.
can have? You know, like, I don't know, you want to follow. And she's like, no, I will have that conversation. And it got better. But then now whole new round of teachers and
Yeah.
all new.
yeah,
kids
well,
and-
I've had that conversation with her twice with the teacher
Yeah.
themselves because it's just testing and having to read the test and having to be pulled out. And I have in fifth grade on the second and first grade level reading, and that frustration, I get it, but the computer can't teach everything.
Right.
So
Hey Kelly, I've always used the words, if they're not doing it, I say, hey, just say no. If they bring up to you, hey, it's the law.
Right.
And you people like, and a lot of times they're like, yeah, shoot, you're right. I think, like I said, going to admin, I think just creating a culture, like you want to make sure I think that's last ditch effort, but they're not doing
that's where I'm at. I don't want to lose my job lose my license prior to getting my license. So
Should be popping back up. I had to re-open. I don't know what happened. So there you go. You should see it now. Everybody good?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you're talking about you have those teachers, so maybe it's obviously a conversation you have with your admin or your director on that, because always my thing is, hey, that's a federally binding document.
Yeah.
It's not whether you want to do it, it's obligated to do it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, sure. Okay, things talk about MTSS. So they use these multiple tier systems of support. That's their framework. So you have 3 tiers. Tier 1, you guys obviously know this, in which all children receive that instructional process with curriculum. Tier 2, you have those smaller groups for some targeted intervention, and in the tier 3, you have intensive, more individualized interventions on that. So that's kind of how MTSS is set up. You can kind of see here, there's a little graphic. All students, universal support, that's going to be your tier 1. Tier 2 is supplemental, involving some students, small groups, and then you have few intensified supports where it's more one-on-one. So again, very popular in Kansas. I know some of you guys are in other states. Yeah, student intervention teams. That's the next area that we was kind of talking about this week, focusing on. So you have individual student problem solving approach in student intervention teams. It's typically used in schools that are not implementing the Kansas MTSS system. They may carry out steps in problem solving sequence in which they develop an intervention that documents concerns. They implement interventions, and then they collect data that reflects the child's responses to those interventions. So it's another way of documenting, providing interventions in a structured format, structured way. So we identify the problem, we analyze it, we implement intervention, then we evaluate and revise. Okay, so that's kind of how that process works. Referral for initial. Okay, we can't just, you know, put in a referral and test them. There are some things that have to happen. So we have to have some screenings and collect some data up front. Parent may make a request in writing for a consideration on that. School referral, a lot of times the have an MTSS process. We're going to collect data, try some interventions to see if we can keep from having to place a student or test them. Also, health department or doctor documentation if there are some health-related concerns that go with it, and then self-referral by an adult student. So you may have a student that's 18 or older that may come in and put in a request or referral requesting some assistance. So remember, parent or adult students may request that initial evaluation at any time, and then the general education interventions may not be used to delay or deny that requested evaluation. Okay, so just make sure you do a lot of screenings and collect data up front. That gap, academic gap that student has may not be quite as big as what we think. That gap could be closed with some interventions, either year 1, 2, or 3, to close that gap. Next thing I'm going to hit on is the referral process. So intervention data becomes part of that initial evaluation. We want to have a lot of things to look at, the overall whole picture. We don't want to just have one assessment to try and make a decision. Really no standard length of time. There's a specific number of types of interventions. Now, once that consent for testing, I want to back up. Once the consent for testing has been signed, then you do have a specific set of time. But during the interventions leading up to that, there's not really a set time. The interventions we need to make sure those address a concern, that they are targeted interventions. We don't just want to be doing interventions just to be doing them. We want to make sure they're specific and targeted to that individual student or the small group. There are really no specifics on who can provide the intervention. Okay, it could be a variety of people. I know in our district, we've had some individuals trained in various methods, especially for dyslexia, students that have been diagnosed with dyslexia. We have some different programs that we have. We've had individuals trained. You may have some individuals that go through some special training for MTSS or RTI that can help provide that service. So nothing really on a specific on who can or can't provide. And then also data should be your main component for determining the referral if needed. Again, we want to make sure we have a good collection of data. Don't just give one screener. And if the student performs low, then regular teachers like, oh, no, we need to test him for special ed. I don't need him in my classroom. That's not a good practice to do. We want to make sure we have a lot of good data to justify our recommendation or suspicion of testing services that are needed. Looking at Part C of IDA, we've been looking at IDA laws. You've been doing some comparisons. You guys did a comparison, a concept map, did some comparisons, some contrast, and then also showed some similarities. So Part C of IDA is basically a federal program that assists states in operating comprehensive statewide programs for basically infants and toddlers with disabilities. So that's birth through 2 years of age. Don't know what your state calls those agencies. Again, here we refer to that as sooner care. And so though they will identify, provide the screeners, they provide services and work with that child in the family up until the time they're school age. And then we do what we call a transition of services. We bring them in as they're entering school. They provide all their data, and then we develop our plan and pick up that service. Should help transition to Part B, which I'm just kind of referred to. Part B defines services for a preschool program, which guarantees free and appropriate public education, children with disabilities 3 through 5. So a lot of times we're starting to pick those students up from 3 through 5 as they near that preschool age. We're working with Sooner Care in Oklahoma. Part C, from Part C to Part B, we're documenting services providing prior to age 3, and then find out who's eligible after that, and whether we need to develop an IEP and start providing those services. Again, a lot of them, when they're younger, are developmental type. We see more speech related. We may see some physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. Just kind of looking ahead at the assignment, some of you guys may have, due to the confusion, already have started on it or have it completed, and that's good. You're ahead of the game. If not, and you haven't started, one of the things that we're looking for is basically a discussion on child fines. So for this topic discussion board, we're actually asking you to identify, evaluate, get some information on the process in your district, whether it's MTSS, SIT, or whatever, RTI, whatever your district uses. And then identify what you feel like are the pros, the cons, and the needs that you see, even though you're using MTSS or SIT. What do you still see as needs that maybe aren't being addressed? And then provide a reflection on that. So you could get with a school psychologist, maybe an experienced special education teacher in your district. Some questions you could ask them is, one, hey, how's child fine carried out in the district? How's our district technically, what are they doing in the child fine process? Are they putting it on the website? Are they actually running advertisements? Are they posting notices in public places of business in the community? What are we doing in our district to conduct child fine, to identify these? What is your district doing for preschool age children? If you have a pre-K, what are some of the services? Have they been working with those early age providers? And as they transition into your preschool, what has your district done to provide that transition and start picking up those services? What procedures do your district have for grades K-5 and then also grades 6 through 12 as far as child fine? What are they doing at those levels? Okay, should be really a district wide, but you may have multiple sites and it's left up to those individual sites. So what are they doing throughout the district in those different sites? Does your district, are they using MTSS or SIT or another system, RTI, whatever they call it, whatever system? What are they using? And then again, what do you feel like are the pros and cons? And then what are the needs? So collect that information, put together initial posts based on what you found out for your district regarding child fine and kind of how that process works, any needs, gaps you feel like they have, and then put your initial post in the discussion boards, asking you to anywhere from 250 to 300 words. Then make sure you respond to at least 2 peers. Okay, at least 2 on there. Provide a response to them. So that's basically the upcoming assignment that is technically due the 15th. I know we had some confusion on that. Again, I apologize, but technically it is due the 15th. So that is it. So make sure you have your initial post in there and then respond to 2 peers. And so that's what we're looking at coming up for this Sunday. Is there any questions on that? Any questions on that?
Will we be in trouble if we go over that 300 words? I just feel like
You
that's a
won't.
lot of information.
It is a lot, and if you go over, I'm not gonna deduct points or anything like that. If you need to go over to provide a good response, then yeah, you can do that. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Because it is quite a bit to try to condense.
Okay. And how important is it? Do I need to call somebody at the grade 6 through 12 level to see how they do it? Because I have no idea.
Yeah, you might inquire, if you, I don't know, if you have an open line of communication with the director that's over your district, where you might be able to email them and you can email them those questions, say, hey, what are we doing on grade 6 through 12 child find? I'm in this class. We're having to do this little assignment and I wasn't for sure what we're doing for the upper grades, and just see if he or she can provide you that information.
Our
Or even,
SLP,
excuse me?
our speech language pathologist helped because she works, you know, well, I don't know if she works in all the schools, but I know she works in my school in the middle school. So
Yeah.
there's people like that in your district that can help too.
Yeah.
And
Some of those secondary providers, whether it's speech, PT, I don't know, if your district's large, they may employ full-time OT and PT in there. They very well could if it's a large enough district. If it's a smaller one, they obviously probably contract them out. But those are good resources for you. If you're not for sure, you can just say, hey, are you serving these students in grade 6 to 12? What's the process for child find in those upper level buildings? So good point, Danny. Thank you for bringing that up.
I had a question too about, I'm a little confused about the due dates on stuff, and I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing because I don't have, so I have the placement.
I know
I just
there
don't
was,
know where to look for due dates.
yeah, so on in your syllabus, all those dates are correct. That's the word, the
Okay.
confusion. And then I also made sure that because there was a discrepancy in the syllabus, I know that's where some of that confusion was. So I made sure those are right, and I corrected that and re-uploaded it
Okay.
into Blackboard. Okay. Then before I uploaded that, I went down through every assignment that's listed where it says submit project C or submit child find discussion board, to make sure that those dates matched. So everything in there now, Danny, should be correct.
Okay.
All the way
There's one
through.
that, the eligibility and placement for students has a 9/15 due date. And I don't know if I had that. Maybe that's what I had, or I don't have my calendar. Maybe that's what I had due for this
You
week.
may have, well, 9/15, it's actually the child find discussion board. If you look at your
Okay.
updated syllabus and everything.
Okay, I'll look at this. I'll look at the syllabus.
Okay.
Determining eligibility is actually on the 22nd of September.
Okay. Okay.
So everything should be lined up now with that syllabus. Again, I
Perfect.
realized some of those dates and I was getting emails. So I went in there before I even started my first Zoom at 6 to make sure, so I could tell you, hey, everything should line up. I made the corrections. Again, the revised corrected syllabus is uploaded in your course shell now, so it should match right up.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm seeing that now in the syllabus.
All right. Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome. So hopefully we can avoid any confusion moving forward on that. So if you guys have any questions moving forward between now and next week when we meet, please email, let me know on anything that we have coming up. Again, your only thing that you have to do is that discussion board. That is your assignment for this week. Just make sure you respond to at least 2 colleagues, 2 peers, okay? Everybody get signed in on the chat box before I end the recording, because once I do that, it won't pick up. So I'll wait for just a second. Please make sure you had your name in there, because I don't want to overlook anybody. And if I have on the previous weeks, please email me and let me know, because I don't want to intentionally overlook someone that was on. Okay. I hope the remainder of your week's good. Hopefully it'll be somewhat stress-free. So it seems like both groups have started off kind of challenging this week. So I don't know, maybe it's a full moon. I don't know. I need to look. That could be it. Who knows?
It's not. I checked. I
Okay.
cannot figure out. I don't think Mercury's in retrograde. I don't know what's happening, but they've all the weather's not changing. I don't know, but yeah, it's been a lot at our school. So I don't know.
I hope your week goes better, and I'll plan on seeing you next Tuesday. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank
Posey.
you all.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.